Hello and welcome back. This is day 2 of this 10-day Improve Your Bachata Challenge. In today's lesson, I'm going to be covering 3 of the most prominent hip actions that exist within our Bachata basic. So yesterday in our isolations lesson, we were working on different ways to use the hips, and today we are going to apply some of those to our basic and our stationary basic. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first action that we're going to use today is the most common action that we use in all Latin dancing, which is our Cuban motion. So what that means is we're going to be using this action in which we bend one knee to create a tilt in the pelvis down toward the knee that is bending. And so I go bend, 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 bend. Each time that I bend, placing my weight onto the bent knee and then pressing into the ground and then switching over to the other knee, creating that tilt down toward the knee and placing my weight on this foot. Push, tilt, push, tilt, push, tilt and bend, tilt and bend, like a tabletop. So if you think of your legs as legs of a table, what happens if you cut one of the legs? The tabletop is going to tilt. And so that's the image that we're using to create this so that we don't start to lead with the hip, which is actually another action that we can use in bachata, but it is not one of the more fundamental ones. And so we're working on just the fundamentals today. We will go into some of the other hip actions further along in this series. So don't worry, we will use that. But right now, what we're trying to create is that tilting down toward the standing leg, okay? So now we're going to apply that to our bachata basic. So we're going to go step, I'm tilting down. When I bring my feet together, this is the most common place where people tend to skip the tilting, so they'll do this. Step, step, yeah? And that creates kind of this lopsided look to our dancing. We want to make sure that even though we're only bringing the feet together, we're still creating an equal amount of tilt in the pelvis and bend in the knee. So I'm going side, together, side. And on this version of the basic, all I'm going to have you do is bring the feet in together and allow the hips to tilt down toward the foot that's tapping. So I'll do that again. Tilt, 2, 3, tap. So I've got 4 switches of the hips, even though I'm only changing my weight 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then on the 4th one, I'm just bringing the ankles together and doing a tap. Now from here, because I'm going to go back in the other direction, my hip is already where it needs to be. My knee is already bent. So all I need to do is move my foot and put my weight on it. You see there's very little movement here. I'm not shifting anything else. All I'm doing is changing my weight to this foot. I press into the ground, step together, shift, step, and bring the ankles together, shifting the hips. Again here, I'm not moving anything except for my foot. Step onto a bent knee, step, step, tap, step, 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 tap. I'm just going to do it from the side so that you can see that I'm constantly alternating my knees. So I go bend straight, bend straight, bend straight, bend. Bend straight, bend straight, bend straight, bend. Okay? So we're going to try this a little bit faster now, and then we will give it a shot with music. Okay? So we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Bend straight, bend straight, bend straight, tap. Bend straight, bend straight, bend straight, tap, and a little faster. 1 and 2 and 3, tap. 5 and 6 and 7, tap. 1 and 2 and 3, tap. 5 and 6 and 7, tap. Okay, so now let's try that version of our basic with music. We're gonna go half time first and then full time, okay? Facing away, starting to the right. We go. 1, 2, 3, come in. 1, 2, 3, in. 1, 2, 3, in. 1, 2, and real time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the second version of our basic that we're going to be utilizing today, we're going to continue to use this up and over action on the 3 steps, but we're going to add a hip pulse on the tap. So that looks like this. 1, 2, 3, and tap, and 1, 2, 3, and tap, and. Okay? So again, using this shifting, tilting the hips down toward the standing foot. 1, 2, 3. Now, I still have to bring the ankles together and shift the hip in order to get into the right position to be able to do my tap, which is why I do the first version first to get you into this habit. Now from here, I'm going to push into my foot to lift the hip, so now it's tilting in the other direction, and then I'm going to release that pressure and allow it to drop back down into its original direction. So that looks like this. Tap, and I'm going to show you from the side. Notice that my heel is off the ground, push, release. My heel isn't coming down to the ground. It lowers a little bit because I'm pushing into that foot, but it doesn't ever reach the ground. The reason the hip is lifting is from that pressure, which actually straightens my knee a little bit, which then lifts the hip. If I drop the heel, it will not actually affect the level of my hips at all. Okay? So again, I'm going 1, 2, 3, and tap, and the tap is really a press. Press, and I'm in position now to go to the other side. 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and. Now I'll share with you another common error that my students make when they're learning this technique, which is they're really focused on the pressing, but that they never allow the hips to drop back to where they came from, which gives it this kind of jerky look because they don't ever finish their movement, okay? So it's just as important to come back as it is to swing up, okay? So we're gonna try that again a little bit faster before we do it with music. We go 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and. Okay? So now let's try it with music. 5, 6, half time we go. 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, drop. 1, 2, 3, and press, real time. 2, 3, and press, and 1, 2, 3, and press, and 1. hip motion that we are going to be working with in today's lesson is the pendulum swing of the hips. So instead of going up and over, now we are going to be using a down and under action. And we are going to be applying this to our basic and also to a stationary basic, which is where we stay in place. So I'll show you with the basic what it looks like. 1, 2, 3, press. 1, 2, 3, press. And then in a stationary basic, it'll be 1, 2, 3, press, and 1, 2, 3, press. Okay? So we'll learn it first how to use this trajectory of movement, and then we will apply it to those 2 steps. As you can see, I'm also using the press tap in this version of the basic because it has a very natural feel to it when I use that. So we worked a little bit yesterday with this pendulum swing of the hips in our body isolations. What I really feel is happening here, because in this motion I am not using my knees to create the tilt in the hips. I really do feel like it's coming more from my midsection and less from my legs. So I'm trying to keep my legs kind of stationary. I've got them pretty bent, and I'm using my center, my obliques, to kind of lift the hips on either side, okay? And I always think about bringing the crest of my hip toward the bottom rib cage. So I'm kind of creating like a crunching action on one side, and then I create a crunching action on the other side, okay? So now we are going to apply that action to our basic step. So we're going to go under 1. So if I'm stepping out with my right foot to this side, it doesn't matter which side you start on, I'm stepping with my right. I'm going swinging the hip toward the foot, actually up onto the foot that I'm stepping on. So now the difference is when we're doing our Cuban motion, my hips are tilting down toward the standing foot, whereas in the pendulum swing of the hips, my hips are tilting toward the foot that I am not putting my weight on. And so here I step and I swing the hips up onto this side. Swing up and press and swing, 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 press and swing, 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 press and swing, 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 press and. Okay, I'm going to try it just a tad faster, and then we will try the stationary basic, and then we'll do both of them with music. So we go 1, 2, 3, tap, and 1, 2, keeping both knees bent, tap, and swing up, swing, swing, tap, and swing, 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 tap, and. Okay, so now in our stationary basic, in other words, we're not moving our feet. We will keep our feet in second position underneath our shoulders, and we go 1, 2, 3. On 3, I'm lifting my heel so that I can press for my tap. Tap, and bring the heel down. 1, 2. Now lift the other heel. Tap, and 1, 2, 3. Press and swing, 2, 3, press. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, press, and 1, 2, 3, press, and 1, 2, 3, press, 1, 2, 3, press. Okay? So later in this series, like I said, we're going to examine other types of hip motion that we can add on top of this one and really make it interesting and dynamic. But this is a really good place to start with all of these basic actions. If you don't get these actions down, the next part of the hip action will not make sense to you. So it's really important to get lots of repetition with all of these basic actions that I've taught in today's lesson. So let's do it with music. Thank you for joining me for day 2 of this 10-day Improve Your Bachata Challenge. Keep practicing, and I'll see you tomorrow for ribcage actions.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's lesson. Leave a comment below and let me know how you did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications for my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at DanceDoctorOnline. Until next time, keep dancing.